What's in a name? By comparing strings and their contents, programs can evaluate information and take appropriate actions. Let's make the name game program a little more fun by allowing the user to enter any name, then print different messages for different kinds of names. Hi, I'm Annette Gotland. I'm the author of the Do-It-Yourself Java Games books. I teach Java programming through creating games. Welcome to the video version of my books. We're currently in the Text Games video series, TG, the first of 4 types of game series. The focus of this series is to cover the fundamentals of Java programming. No programming experience is required. You'll learn how, when, and why Java programs are written the way they are. This series has 16 projects. We're currently working on the 5th project, TG5, Name Game Revisited. In this project, we'll add more functionality to the name game we created in TG5.1. We'll ask for a name and print different responses based on a given name, as shown here. This is lesson TG5.1, where you'll learn to use if statements to compare strings that are equal or contain certain letters. If statements let you run one block of code if a condition is true and another if it's false. In this lesson, you'll check if a string is equal to, starts with, ends with, or contains another string. You'll then print different messages for different names. Exercise 1. Input a name. Pause the video if you need more time in any of these exercises. If you want to see how I would complete any of the listings, please refer to the completed listings at the end of this video. Open the name game program that we created in TG5.1. How do you tell the user to enter a name, then wait for them to enter a name? Hint: go back to lesson TG4.1 if you don't know how to print a prompt, then wait for the user to enter input. Run it. What happened? It should have printed the Jack Be Nimble nursery rhyme using the name you entered. Let's consider how if statements work. Which of the 2 strings do you think this code would print? If true, print, I like dogs. Else, print, I like cats. If you guessed I like dogs, you guessed right. Can you guess what would make it print I like cats? If what, print I like dogs. Else, print I like cats. If you guessed false, you guessed right. These are called if statements. Exercise 2. Compare the name with Jack. Add code exactly as shown. Run it by entering the name Jack. What happened? It should have printed, Jack, your jumping skills are famous. Run it again, this time entering a different name. What happened? It should have printed the new name and say, I've never heard of you. Exercise 3. If your name is entered. Add another if statement to say something special if name is your name. For example, I compared the input with my name. If true, I printed the name and added, is a Java programmer. If false, I printed the name and asked, are you a Java programmer? Run it. What happened? It should have printed the first message if the name was your name. Otherwise, it should have printed the second message. Other common string tests are to check if the string starts with, ends with, or contains a specific string. For example, to check if name starts with A, use if name starts with A. You could also use an if statement without an else block like this. If name starts with A, print, go to the front of the line. In this case, if name doesn't start with A, the code won't print anything. We'll use strings start with method and an if statement without an else block next. Exercise 4. Is the name a king? Print Your Highness if the person is a king. Hint: check if the name starts with capital K-I-N-G. Run it. What happened? It should have printed Your Highness if you entered a name that starts with king. You can also easily check if a string does not meet the criteria. To check if a string does not meet the criteria, put a not operator, an exclamation point, in front of the test. For example, to check if name is not Annette, use if not name equals Annette. Exercise 5. If the name is not the one expected. Print I'm waiting for Billy if the name isn't Billy. Run it. What happened? It should have printed I'm waiting for Billy if you entered any name other than Billy. Next, let's try strings contains method. Exercise 6. If a user entered only a first name or last name. How would you check if the user entered only a first or last name? Hint: check whether there is a space in the string. Run it. What happened? If you entered a name without a space in it, it should ask, don't you have a first and last name? You can also check for more than one condition using logical operators. We've already used one logical operator, the not operator, typed as an exclamation point to test if a condition is false. Here are two more logical operators. Use the exclusive OR operator, typed as a double vertical bar, to test for one condition or another to be true. And use the exclusive AND operator, typed as a double ampersand, to test for one condition and another to be true. Exercise 7. If the name is for a king or queen. Change the code that printed Your Highness to now print the same for either a king or a queen. Run it. What happened? If you entered a name starting with king or queen, it should print Your Highness. You may also use multiple else statements that first check for another condition. Exercise 8. Is there a doctor in the house? First, let the user know there may be a medical emergency if the name is a doctor but isn't Dr. Frankenstein. Hint: you'll know if the name is a doctor if the name starts with capital Dr. period. Otherwise, if the name is Dr. Frankenstein, tell the user no help is needed. Otherwise, ask if there's a doctor in the house. Run it. What happened? It should have printed the appropriate message based on the stated conditions. Key points and more. If statement structure. An if statement is the word if followed by a condition in parentheses, which is followed by a block of code in curly brackets. This block of code may also be followed by the word else and another block of code in curly brackets. This is all part of the if statement. If checks for a condition which is either true or false. If true, the block of code within the curly brackets immediately after the condition is run. If false, the block of code within the curly brackets immediately after the word else is run. So this code says, if the condition is true, do something, otherwise do something else. You can use an if statement without an else block. You can add an else-if series of conditions to run only if the prior condition is false. This code says if condition 1 is true, do something. Otherwise, if condition 2 is true, do something else. Otherwise, do something different. Key points and more, comparing strings and logical operators. Use these methods to check strings for different conditions. Use equals to check if a string is the same as a string in the parentheses. Use starts with to check if a string starts with the string in the parentheses. Use ends with to check if a string ends with the string in the parentheses. Use contains to check if a string contains the string in the parentheses. Use the not operator to check for the opposite of the condition, in other words, if the condition is false. Use the exclusive AND operator between conditions to check if both of the conditions are true. If the first condition is false, it won't even look at the second condition. Use the exclusive OR operator between conditions to check if at least one of the conditions is true. If the first condition is true, it won't even look at the second condition. Here are the completed listings for all the exercises in this video. This is the end of the only lesson in the Name Game Revisited project. The name game should now generate an interesting variety of messages based on the name entered. You should now feel comfortable creating if statements that generate different results based on the contents of a string. Later, we'll do one more project to finish the name game. But first, we'll create another project to learn new techniques to apply to the name game. The next project, Choose an Adventure, starts an adventure in which the user chooses from options for how his adventure should continue. The project includes several lessons covering more essential Java topics, including how to use switch statements for multiple options and how to create your own methods.